Greetings, YouTube. Today I'd like to talk about taxes. At the time of this filming, it is April 6th, so it's almost the deadline for taxes in the United States, which is April 15th. It's almost always April 15th. They have shifted it a little bit later depending on where the day of the week is, but but we've already filed our taxes. In fact, we unfortunately ended up having to pay in $1,000 this year, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Um, and I am not an accountant. My mother was. Uh, I am not, and I don't have a deep understanding of taxes. But here's the rub: you don't need to. You don't need a deep understanding of taxes to understand, in a very straightforward way, how tax brackets work. Now, some people are that the idea of a tax bracket is just foreign language. They don't get what you mean. Um, And in the United States, we have tax brackets. We have like this amount of money is going to be taxed at this rate, and then a higher amount of money will be taxed at a different rate. And the confusion falls in to the fact that when you move into a higher tax bracket, a lot of people, and this is a pervasive myth that has been perpetuated by big business, that all of your money will now be taxed at the higher rate. And this is such a pervasive myth that there have been people in the United States, real world, everyday, flesh and blood people, who have refused to take a raise for fear it would put them into a higher tax bracket and they would then lose money. They are afraid if they get more money, they would end up having less money. That is a pervasive myth that has, again, been perpetuated by business because it helps business because people refuse to get raises. So I want you to imagine for a second that you are doing well. You make $100,000 a year, and we're going to, uh, purposes of this discussion, we're going to use nice round numbers of taxes. These are not accurate numbers, but they're nice round numbers. So you're being taxed at 30%. So that covers everything. 30%, you take out, everything is paid for, okay? So you're taking home 70 grand a year. Cool. You get a raise. And the raise is going to bump you up to $120,000 a year. That's a $20,000 raise, okay? That's a significant increase in your salary. You just got some kind of promotion. And that's going to bump you into the 40% tax bracket. Now, there are people who are panicking because now they think they're going to be taking a 40% cut of $120,000. That's terrible. That's not how it works. Tax brackets mean that you'll be paying 30% on that first $100,000, just like you were yesterday before you got the raise. And for now, for every dollar over 100,000, you'll be paying 40%. So you're only being taxed that additional 10% tax rate on the money that is made above $100,000. So if, say you got the raise in December and you make $10 more than you did the previous year, even with the new raise, that means you're going to be taxed 40% on that 10 bucks. That's it. That's all. And the 100,000 that you made is going to be taxed 30. That isn't a hard concept to grasp, and yet I know so many people that do not get that. And they are convinced, again, a myth perpetuated by capitalism, that if you get raises, you get more money, which we need in this capitalistic dystopian hellscape that we are in, you will then somehow lose money because you'll be in a higher tax bracket. You only get taxed at the higher rate in the new bracket. The old bracket get taxed at the old rate. I know I am not discussing subtleties here, but you don't have to be discussing subtleties to understand that this is how tax brackets work. Now, I don't have any idea if this is being taught in schools today. I don't. But I can tell you that in my experience, when I graduated high school in 1982, that no one ever talked about tax brackets. They never talked about salaries. They never talked about how to take job interviews. They never talked about how to plan for the future. They never required us to do any kind of courses that were steeped in real world skills. How to sew a button, how to make food, how to change a tire. None of the basic skills that you need in the real world were required of us when I was in school. We never discussed labor laws. None of this was discussed. We were thrust into the world knowing nothing about the real world with the assumption that either our parents would have taught us this or we would have just absorbed it from the general zeitgeist. Newsflash, if you're mentally ill and neurodivergent, this doesn't happen. So I'm hoping kids nowadays are getting some kind of information, though I doubt it. Because again, it benefits the corporate narrative. It benefits capitalism if people don't understand how tax brackets work. So have you ever refused a raise because you were afraid of being put into a higher tax bracket? Or have you ever known someone who's done this? Because I know it happens in America. And it's baffling to me that folks don't understand this very simple concept that tax brackets mean you will only be taxed at the higher rate into that money that it was earned in that higher bracket. It's a simple concept, and yet so many Americans don't seem to get it.